I've been having that damn dream again. The same blonde woman in a flowing dress, wandering through endless corridors of a Victorian mansion. Her face remains hidden, but something about her presence feels familiar, like a long-lost memory trying to surface. My alarm chirps at 6 a.m., and I drag myself out of bed. Another restless night means another day of concealer under my eyes. The morning light streams through my penthouse windows, illuminating the collection of auction catalogs scattered across my desk. Being Bakersfield's top auctioneer at Coleman & Associates has its perks, but lately something feels off. "Samantha, the Morrison Estate preview starts in an hour." My assistant's voice crackles through the intercom. I adjust my tailored blazer, checking my reflection. My brunette hair is perfectly styled, green eyes sharp despite my fatigue. The woman staring back at me looks successful, put together, but her eyes hold a question I can't answer. The dream has been getting stronger. Last night, I could smell old wood and roses, hear the rustle of silk against hardwood floors. The mysterious woman turned slightly, and I caught a glimpse of blue eyes that pierced straight through my soul. I woke up gasping, my sheets damp with sweat. At the office, I moved through my day like a well-oiled machine. Lot, an early-century Chippendale cabinet. Bidding starts at $50,000. My voice rings clear through the auction room, but my mind keeps drifting to those dream corridors. The wealthy collectors raise their paddles, yet their faces blur together. That evening, I find myself sketching the mansion from my dreams during a client meeting. The spires, the wraparound porch, the distinctive windows, it all flows from my pen with disturbing accuracy. My client's voice fades to background noise as I shade in the garden where the mystery woman always appears. "Ms. Coleman?" The client's sharp tone snaps me back. "About the estate valuation?" I shuffle papers, embarrassed. This isn't like me. I'm known for my laser focus, my ability to price antiques down to the dollar. The dream is bleeding into my waking hours, making me question everything I've built. Later, in my office, I research Victorian mansions in Bakersfield. My fingers hover over the keyboard as images flash across the screen. None match the one in my dreams, but each search pulls me deeper into obsession. The setting sun casts long shadows across my desk, and for a moment I swear I catch a whiff of roses. My phone buzzes, a reminder about tomorrow's volunteer work at the Historical Society. I almost cancel, but something stops me. The dream woman appears in my mind again, clearer than ever. This time she's reaching out, her fingers almost brushing mine before I jolt awake at my desk. I gather my things, my heels clicking against the marble floor as I head home. The city lights blur past my car windows, and I can't shake the feeling that everything's about to change. That somehow these dreams are more than just dreams. They're leading me somewhere, or to someone. In bed that night, I don't fight the dream as it comes. The mansion materializes around me, more solid than ever. The woman's blonde hair gleams in moonlight, and this time, as she turns, I'm ready. But before I can see her face, I'm pulled back to consciousness, my heart racing with a certainty I can't explain. Tomorrow will be different. Tomorrow something has to give. The Historical Society's renovation project wasn't my usual scene, but after another night of dreams, I needed a change. The autumn air carried a crisp bite as I pulled up to the old Thompson building, its brick facade wearing decades of Bakersfield history. "Welcome to our weekend warriors." The project coordinator's enthusiasm felt excessive for AM. She handed out assignments, and I found myself headed to the second floor with a box of cleaning supplies. The room was filled with antique furniture waiting to be restored, each piece telling its own story. I was examining a Victorian writing desk when I heard footsteps behind me. "That's a rosewood Davenport circa 1860. The voice was soft but confident. I turned and my heart stopped. Blonde hair, tall, elegant. She stepped into the sunlight streaming through the dusty windows. "I'm Hazel Parker," she said, extending her hand. Her blue eyes met mine, and the room tilted sideways. She was the woman from my dreams, in the flesh. I must have stared too long because her smile faltered slightly. "Samantha Coleman," I managed, taking her hand. A jolt of recognition passed between us, and she withdrew quickly, looking as startled as I felt. We worked side by side, stripping years of neglect from the antiques. Hazel knew her furniture, dropping casual observations about period-specific joinery and original finishes. "My family used to collect pieces like these," she said, a shadow crossing her face. "Used to?" I asked, carefully polishing brass hardware. The Parker fortune isn't what it used to be. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Now I just help preserve other people's treasures. Throughout the day, I caught myself stealing glances at her. The way she moved was exactly like in my dreams, graceful, purposeful. She'd roll up her sleeves to tackle stubborn stains, revealing delicate wrists that seemed more suited to ballrooms than restoration work. "You're staring again," she said during our lunch break, but she was smiling. "Do I have furniture polish on my face?" "No, it's just. Have we met before?" The question felt inadequate for the storm of recognition raging inside me. Hazel paused, sandwich halfway to her mouth. "I've been wondering the same thing. There's something familiar about you, Samantha." We shared stories over ham sandwiches and lukewarm coffee. She was from old money, she explained, but recent years had been hard. The Parker name still opened doors, but their accounts told a different story. I found myself wanting to tell her about the dreams, but how do you tell a stranger you've been dreaming about them? The afternoon light faded too quickly. We'd restored 3 pieces together, working in comfortable silence punctuated by quiet conversations about history and heritage. When she reached past me for a rag, her arm brushing mine, I caught the scent of roses, the same from my dreams. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked as we gathered our things. Her voice held a note of hope that made my chest tight. "Every weekend until it's done," I replied, trying to sound casual. "These pieces deserve proper care." She nodded, understanding flowing between us. The past has a way of demanding attention, doesn't it? Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. The dream suddenly made a strange kind of sense, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. That night, for the first time, I looked forward to sleeping, hoping to see her in my dreams again. But when I closed my eyes, the dreams had changed. Now Hazel and I walked the mansion's corridors together, our footsteps echoing in perfect sync. The mystery was shifting, evolving into something new and unexplored. And somehow, I knew this was just the beginning. The Parker mansion loomed before me, its Victorian grandeur faded but still impressive. Hazel had invited me to help catalog her family's remaining heirlooms, and I couldn't refuse. The dreams had become more intense since our meeting, filled with whispered conversations and shared glances that left me breathless upon waking. "It's not what it used to be," Hazel said, unlocking the heavy front door. She was right. Beneath the elegant architecture lay signs of decline: worn carpets, faded wallpaper, dusty chandeliers that hadn't sparkled in years. "The bank's breathing down our necks," she continued, leading me through rooms that echoed with emptiness. "Everything needs to be valued for potential sale." Her voice caught slightly, and I fought the urge to reach for her hand. The library took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling shelves housed leather-bound volumes, and portraits of stern-faced Parkers watched us from gilded frames. "This is where I spend most of my time," Hazel said, running her fingers along a shelf. "It's the only room that still feels alive." We started our inventory, documenting each piece with photographs and notes. Hazel shared stories behind various items. A Sèvres vase from her great-grandmother's collection, a Georgian silver tea service that had served 4 generations of Parkers. "This is strange," I said, examining a portrait of a woman from the S. She had Hazel's eyes, that same haunting blue. "She looks exactly like you." Hazel moved closer, her shoulder brushing mine. "My great-great-aunt Elizabeth. They say she died of a broken heart." She paused, studying my face. "Samantha, do you ever have dreams that feel more like memories?" My heart skipped. "Why do you ask?" "Because I've been dreaming about you, even before we met." The confession hung in the air between us. In this house, wearing clothes from another time. "I thought I was going crazy," I whispered. "I've been seeing you in my dreams for weeks." Our eyes met, and something electric passed between us. The room seemed to shift, overlaying itself with images from our shared dreams. For a moment, I could see us in Victorian dress, moving through these same rooms. A crash of thunder made us jump. Rain began pelting the windows as we continued our work, now charged with unspoken understanding. Every brush of hands, every shared glance carried new meaning. "Look at this," Hazel called later, holding up a bundle of yellowed letters. "They're from Elizabeth Parker to someone named Catherine Coleman." My surname made my skin prickle. We read through the letters together, shoulders touching. they spoke of secret meetings, of a friendship that seemed to run deeper than the words revealed. The last letter was tear-stained, unfinished. Catherine Coleman was my great-great-aunt, I said softly. She never married, devoted herself to running the family auction house. The pieces were falling into place, a century-old puzzle completing itself through us. As evening approached, we found ourselves in the conservatory. Rain streamed down the glass panels, creating a private world. Hazel's hand found mine in the growing darkness. "Do you believe in fate?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before I could answer, the power went out. Lightning illuminated her face, so close to mine. In that flash, I saw every version of her, the woman from my dreams, the aristocrat fighting to save her heritage, and this new Hazel, who made my heart race with possibility. "I believe some stories need to be finished," I replied, squeezing her hand. The thunder rolled again, but neither of us moved. We stood there, surrounded by her family's past and the weight of our shared dreams, understanding that something profound had been set in motion. That night, my dreams were different. Instead of watching Hazel from afar, we were together, dancing in the mansion's ballroom. When I woke, I could still feel her hand in mine, and I knew our story was just beginning to unfold. The discovery of the secret room happened by accident. We were examining a peculiar pattern in the library's wood paneling when Hazel's elbow hit something. A soft click, and a section of wall swung inward, revealing a space untouched for decades. "I can't believe this," Hazel breathed, her flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. "I grew up in this house, and I never knew." The room was small but packed with treasures, paintings, jewelry boxes, and stacks of documents. I followed her inside, my auctioneer's eye immediately spotting pieces that could save the Parker estate. A Fabergé egg nestled in velvet, original Renaissance paintings, and what appeared to be Marie Antoinette's personal correspondence. "These must have been hidden during the Depression," I said, carefully lifting a diamond necklace. "Your family protected their most valuable pieces." The jewels caught the light, scattering rainbows across Hazel's face. We spent hours cataloging the finds, working late into the night. Our hands would brush as we passed items back and forth, each touch sending electricity through my body. The intimate space forced us close together, and I could smell her perfume mixed with the room's aged wood scent. "Look at this," Hazel said, holding up a daguerreotype. It showed Elizabeth Parker and Catherine Coleman together, their poses suggesting more than friendship. "They weren't just friends, were they?" "No," I replied softly. "I don't think they were." The image blurred as tears filled my eyes, understanding the depth of what they must have sacrificed. Thunder rumbled outside as we continued working. The storm had returned, matching the intensity of emotions flowing between us. Each discovered item seemed to tell part of Elizabeth and Catherine's story. Hidden love letters, paired lockets, pressed flowers and ancient books. "They had to hide everything," Hazel whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Their love, these treasures, their true selves." She was so close now, her blue eyes reflecting the flashlight's beam. Lightning flashed through the library windows, illuminating the secret room. In that moment, surrounded by the echoes of our ancestors' secret love, something shifted. Hazel's hand found mine in the darkness. "We don't have to hide," I said, barely audible over the rain. The kiss happened naturally, like the conclusion of a story we'd been reading all along. Her lips were soft, tasting of coffee and promise. The storm raged outside, but in that hidden room, we found shelter in each other. When we finally pulled apart, the air felt charged with possibility. "I've wanted to do that since I first saw you," Hazel admitted, her fingers still intertwined with mine. We spent the rest of the night examining documents. But everything felt different now. Our shared glances carried new weight, our casual touches lingered longer. The room's treasures seemed to glow with approval, as if our ancestors had orchestrated this all along. "These pieces could save your home," I said later, reviewing my preliminary valuations. "The Fabergé egg alone could clear your debts." Hazel smiled, but her eyes held worry. "What about your auction house? Won't this create complications?" I thought about my family's business, about expectations and appearances. "Some things are worth complicating," I replied, pulling her close again. As dawn approached, we reluctantly sealed the room. But we couldn't seal away what had happened inside it. The storm had passed, leaving everything washed clean and new. Walking to my car, Hazel caught my hand one last time. "Stay for breakfast?" she asked, hope dancing in her eyes. I knew saying yes would change everything. My career, my life, my future. But as the sun rose over the Parker mansion, I realized I'd made my choice the moment I first dreamed of her. Yes, I said, following her back inside. The mansion seemed to welcome us, its secrets now ours to share. The email from Coleman and Associates Board of Directors landed like a bomb in my inbox. Immediate action required regarding Parker estate valuation. My stomach churned as I read their demands. They wanted to fast-track the auction, capitalize on the media buzz surrounding our discoveries. I hadn't told them about Hazel, about us, about how I spent more nights at the Parker mansion than my own apartment now, how we'd wake up tangled in ancient silk sheets, sharing coffee and kisses in the morning light. They're pushing for a complete estate sale, I told Hazel that evening, watching her pace the library. The board smells blood in the water. They know the hidden room pieces could fetch millions. Can't you stall them? Her voice cracked slightly. She'd stopped pacing, standing before Elizabeth's portrait. The family resemblance was striking. Same proud stance, same defiant blue eyes. They're sending representatives tomorrow. I'm supposed to give them a full tour. The words tasted bitter. They're my family's biggest shareholders, Hazel. They can replace me if I don't cooperate. She turned to face me, moonlight streaming through the library windows. Then let them replace you. Her words hung in the air between us. We could find another way. It's not that simple. But wasn't it? I thought of the auction house, of years spent building my reputation. This is my whole career, everything I've worked for. And this is my heritage. Hazel's voice rose. These aren't just antiques, Samantha. They're my family's soul. She gestured to the room around us. Our story. The argument escalated, words we'd both been holding back finally spilling out. About duty, about choices, about the weight of expectations, about us. You're choosing them over me, she said finally, hurt clouding her eyes. That's not fair. I reached for her, but she stepped back. I'm trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Like Elizabeth and Catherine did? Her laugh was hollow. They chose duty over love, and look how that ended. The silence that followed was deafening. Outside, a car alarm wailed in the distance, a jarring reminder of the modern world beyond these historic walls. I found myself moving toward her, drawn by a force I couldn't resist. Hazel, look at me. When she didn't, I gently turned her face toward mine. I'm not Catherine, and you're not Elizabeth. We get to write our own ending. The kiss that followed was desperate, heated, full of unspoken fears and promises. Her hands tangled in my hair as I pressed her against the bookshelf, centuries of leather-bound volumes witnessing our passion. Later, lying on the library's Persian rug, Hazel traced patterns on my bare shoulder. We could turn it into a museum, she said softly. Keep the collection together, open it to the public. I propped myself up on an elbow, studying her face in the moonlight. The board would never approve. The profit margins. Damn the board. She sat up, energy radiating from her. This isn't about profit margins. It's about preserving something beautiful, something real. Looking at her then, fierce, passionate, unwilling to let history repeat itself, I felt something shift inside me. The auction house had been my life, but Hazel was becoming my future. I'll need time to figure things out, I said finally. To find a way to present this that they can't refuse. She pulled me close, her kiss a seal on an unspoken promise. We have time, and we have each other. As we drifted off, surrounded by centuries of Parker family history, I thought about choices and consequences. Tomorrow I'd face the board. Tomorrow I'd fight for us. But tonight, in this library where our story had begun, nothing else mattered but the woman in my arms. The portraits watched over us, their painted eyes holding secrets of their own. Perhaps I thought as sleep claimed me, some treasures were never meant to be sold. The dreams changed after our night in the library. They became more vivid, more urgent. I'd wake up gasping, images of Elizabeth and Catherine's life bleeding into my own memories. Hazel was experiencing the same thing. We'd often wake at the same moment, reaching for each other in the darkness. They were in the garden, I said one morning, watching Hazel brush her hair. Elizabeth was wearing a blue dress and Catherine was sketching her. The memory dream felt so real, I could almost smell the summer roses. I saw them too, Hazel replied, turning from the mirror. Catherine dropped her sketchbook when Elizabeth's father appeared. They were so afraid of being discovered. We began documenting our shared dreams, filling a leather-bound journal with details. The patterns were undeniable. We were seeing their story unfold, piece by piece, night after night. "Look at this," Hazel called from the library one evening. She held up a faded sketch, the exact scene from our dream. Catherine's signature was barely visible in the corner, the paper fragile with age. The dreams grew more intense. We'd experience entire evenings from their lives, secret meetings in the conservatory, stolen moments in the library, the constant fear of discovery. Their emotions became our emotions, their pain our pain. One night, the dream was different. I found myself in Elizabeth's body, feeling her heart break as she read the letter announcing Catherine's arranged marriage. The anguish was so real, I woke up crying in Hazel's arms. "They never got their chance," Hazel whispered, holding me close. "Society wouldn't let them." We spent days researching, piecing together their story through letters, diaries, and our shared visions. Catherine had married a businessman from San Francisco, but the marriage lasted barely a year. Elizabeth never married, dedicating herself to preserving the Parker estate. They found ways to stay connected, I realized, examining Catherine's auction records. She made sure Parker heirlooms never left Bakersfield, always finding local buyers. The dreams began affecting our waking hours. I'd catch glimpses of them in mirrors, hear their whispered conversations in empty rooms. Hazel would sometimes speak in Elizabeth's manner, using phrases from another century. "It's like they're trying to tell us something," Hazel said one evening as we sat in the garden. The same garden where Elizabeth and Catherine had shared their secret moments, like they're warning us. That night's dream was the most powerful yet. We were both there, watching Elizabeth and Catherine's final meeting. The pain of their separation filled the room like smoke, choking us with its intensity. "Promise me you'll live the life I couldn't," Elizabeth's voice echoed in my mind as I jolted awake. Hazel was already sitting up, tears streaming down her face. "Did you hear them?" she asked, clutching my hand. "Yes," I whispered. "They don't want us to make the same choices." We stayed up until dawn, talking about the dreams, about us, about the future. The weight of their unfulfilled love pressed against us, demanding we do better, be braver. "Maybe that's why we found the secret room," Hazel suggested. "Maybe they've been guiding us all along." The morning light filtered through the windows, casting patterns on the floor that seemed to dance with purpose. Our ancestors' story was tragic, but it had led us here, to this moment, to each other. "We won't let them down," I promised, pulling Hazel close. "Their story might have ended in heartbreak, but ours won't." As we drifted back to sleep, I felt their presence around us, not haunting, but protecting. Their dreams had become our dreams, their past our present. And somehow, I knew they were smiling, watching us choose love over fear, truth over tradition. The dreams would continue, but they no longer frightened me. They were gifts, reminders of what happens when love is denied its voice. In our sleep, Elizabeth and Catherine lived again, showing us the way forward through their own lost chances. This time, the story would have a different ending. Bakersfield's elite social circle was like a spider's web, intricate, sticky, and impossible to navigate without getting tangled. News of my frequent visits to the Parker mansion had spread faster than wildfire at a summer garden party. "Samantha Coleman, spending every night at the Parker estate?" Mrs. Whitmore's voice dripped with suggestion during a charity committee meeting. "How? Dedicated to your work." I kept my face neutral, years of auction negotiations serving me well. "The Parker collection requires thorough documentation," but the whispers continued, growing louder with each passing day. Hazel handled it differently, her aristocratic upbringing showing in her pointed ignorance of the gossip. "Let them talk," she said, squeezing my hand under the table at a local fundraiser. "They've been waiting for a Parker scandal since my great-grandmother's day." But the situation complicated when James Richardson arrived in town. Hazel's ex-fiancé, the man her parents had chosen before the family fortune crumbled, swept back into Bakersfield like a tornado in an expensive suit. "Hazel, darling," his voice boomed across the country club's terrace. "I heard about the estate troubles. I'm here to help." His smile was perfect, practiced, predatory. I watched Hazel stiffen, her wineglass freezing halfway to her lips. "James, what a surprise." Her voice carried years of unspoken history. He inserted himself into every event, every gathering. always standing too close to Hazel, always touching her arm, always reminding everyone of their past engagement. "We were perfect together," he'd say loudly. "Sometimes perfect things deserve a second chance." The whispers shifted, took on new life. James and Hazel reunited. "The timing's perfect, he could save the estate." "What about that Coleman woman?" I tried to ignore it, focus on our plans for the museum. But seeing him hover around Hazel, watching him try to recreate their past, made my blood boil. The annual Heritage Foundation Gala became our breaking point. James had maneuvered himself onto the planning committee, ensuring he and Hazel would work closely together. "Just like old times," he announced to the room, his hand lingering on her shoulder. I saw Hazel's polite smile strain at the edges. The evening progressed like a powder keg searching for a match. James monopolized Hazel's attention, steering her around the room like his personal trophy. I kept my distance, watching, until I couldn't anymore. "May I cut in?" I asked during a waltz, my voice steady despite my racing heart. The room seemed to hold its breath. James's smile turned cold. "Samantha, surely you understand this is a private moment between old flames." "I understand you're hurting her arm," I replied quietly, noting his tight grip on Hazel's wrist. The music swelled as tension crackled between us. Hazel's eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "James," she said firmly, pulling away from him. "Stop living in the past." His facade cracked. "The past? Like your family's glory days? Face it, Hazel, you need me. The Parker name isn't worth dirt without proper backing." The room fell silent. Hazel straightened, every inch the aristocrat. "The Parker name survived the Depression, 2 world wars, and worse than you. I don't need saving, James. Especially not from you." She turned to me, extending her hand. "Samantha, shall we dance?" Taking her hand felt like coming home. As we moved across the floor, the whispers rose to a roar. But in that moment, with Hazel in my arms, nothing else mattered. "Well," she murmured against my ear, "I suppose that's one way to come out to Bakersfield society." I pulled her closer, feeling her smile against my shoulder. "Are you okay with this?" "More than okay." She lifted her head, meeting my eyes. "I'm tired of hiding, Samantha. Elizabeth and Catherine spent their lives in shadows. We won't." Later that night, in the safety of the mansion, we laughed about the shocked faces, the dropped champagne glasses, James's purple-faced rage. But beneath our laughter ran a current of relief. No more pretending, no more careful distances in public. The dreams that night were peaceful, as if Elizabeth and Catherine approved. We'd chosen truth over tradition, love over appearances, and somehow, that felt like the most aristocratic choice of all. The Coleman and Associates board meeting loomed before me like an execution. My hands trembled slightly as I arranged my presentation materials, knowing what I was about to do could end my career. "The Parker estate represents an unprecedented opportunity," I began, facing the row of expectant faces. "But not in the way you might think." I outlined our museum proposal, the historical significance, the educational potential, the tax benefits. With each point, I watched their expressions shift from interest to confusion to displeasure. "Ms. Coleman," Mr. Richardson interrupted, James's father's voice cutting like steel. "We're not in the business of preservation. We're in the business of profit." "Sometimes profit wears different faces," I countered, thinking of Hazel's smile, of Elizabeth's portrait, of everything worth saving. The Parker collection tells a story that deserves to remain intact. The meeting devolved into heated arguments about market values and shareholder responsibilities. Words like emotional compromise and professional distance were thrown around like weapons. "Your father built this company on decisive action," someone reminded me. "He wouldn't let sentiment cloud his judgment." I thought of my father, of his lessons about value and worth. "My father taught me to recognize true value," I replied. "And sometimes, that means looking beyond the price tag." They gave me an ultimatum: proceed with the auction as planned or step down. The choice should have been difficult, but somehow, it wasn't. I found Hazel in the mansion's garden, tending to Elizabeth's roses. The afternoon sun caught her hair, turning it to gold, and my heart swelled with certainty. "I resigned," I said simply. She dropped her gardening shears. "Samantha, no. Your career was built on recognizing valuable things," I finished, taking her hands in mine. And you, this place, what we're trying to preserve, it's the most valuable thing I've ever found. That night, we made love in Elizabeth's room, moonlight painting silver patterns across our skin. Every touch felt like a promise. Every kiss, a declaration of defiance against those who would tear us apart. I have an idea, Hazel whispered later, tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. The hidden room pieces, we could sell a few carefully selected items, not through your family's company, but through independent channels. The plan took shape between kisses and caresses. We'd choose pieces without direct Parker family connection, use the proceeds to fund the museum's initial setup. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. My great-aunt Catherine would approve, I mused. She always found creative solutions. Hazel propped herself up on an elbow, her blue eyes serious in the darkness. Are you sure about this? About giving up everything you've built? I pulled her close, breathing in her familiar scent of roses and old books. I'm not giving up anything. I'm choosing something better. The next morning, I woke to find Hazel already dressed, excitement radiating from her. I've been making calls, she announced. There's a historical preservation grant we might qualify for, and 3 universities have expressed interest in research partnerships. We spent the day planning, dreaming, building our future piece by piece. My auction house expertise merged with her historical knowledge, creating something new and wonderful. As evening approached, we stood in the library where it all began. The portrait of Elizabeth seemed to smile down at us, approval shining in her painted eyes. We're really doing this, Hazel said, wonder in her voice. I pulled her into my arms, remembering all the moments that had led us here, the dreams, the discoveries, the choices. Yes, we are. And we're doing it together. The setting sun streamed through the library windows, casting long shadows across the floor. But unlike Elizabeth and Catherine's story, our shadows intertwined freely, unafraid of who might see. Together, Hazel repeated, sealing the word with a kiss that tasted of promise and possibility. Outside, the world might judge, might whisper, might disapprove. But here, in this mansion filled with history and hope, we were writing our own story. And this time, love wouldn't remain hidden in secret rooms and unfinished letters. This time, love would win. The letters were hidden in a false bottom of Catherine's writing desk, the same desk I'd first admired at the Historical Society. Hazel discovered them while we were preparing the furniture for the museum display. Samantha, she called, her voice trembling. I think you need to see this. The bundle was tied with faded blue ribbon, the paper delicate with age. Catherine's elegant handwriting filled page after page, each letter addressed to Elizabeth but never sent. My dearest Elizabeth, I read aloud, Hazel's hand warm in mine. The dreams began the night we parted. I see you in the mansion's halls, in the garden where we last embraced. Sometimes I wake believing I can still feel your touch. We spent the night reading through decades of undelivered love letters. Catherine wrote about the same dreams that had brought Hazel and me together. She described visions of Elizabeth walking the mansion's corridors, of shared moments that existed only in their connected sleep. The dreams are our inheritance, Hazel whispered. They've been passing through our families for generations. More research revealed a pattern. Every few generations, a Coleman woman would dream of a Parker woman, or vice versa. Most ignored the dreams, married as expected, lived lives of quiet regret. But some tried to break free, I said, showing Hazel a newspaper clipping from 1923. It reported the scandal of a Parker daughter running away with a female friend, only to be caught and separated. The dreams, we realized, were more than supernatural coincidence. They were a legacy of love, passing through our bloodlines like a secret message, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. In Elizabeth's diary, we found the origin. During a séance popular in Victorian times, she and Catherine had participated in a ritual. Let our souls find each other, Elizabeth wrote. If not in this life, then in dreams, until our love finds a time where it can bloom freely. The ritual had worked too well, binding our families together through generations of shared dreams. Each pair had faced the same choice: follow society's expectations, or follow their hearts. We're the first ones to choose differently, Hazel said, looking up from a particularly heartbreaking letter. The first ones to listen to the dreams. That night, our dreams were more vivid than ever. We saw Elizabeth and Catherine performing the ritual, their hands clasped over a burning candle, tears streaming down their faces as they promised their souls to future generations. We woke simultaneously, clinging to each other in the pre-dawn light. They knew, I said, my voice rough with emotion. They knew someday, someone would be strong enough to break the cycle. Hazel traced my face with trembling fingers. They've been waiting for us. All this time, they've been waiting for someone to finish their story. The discovery changed everything. The museum wasn't just about preserving history anymore. It was about honoring a legacy of love that had spanned centuries. We found more evidence as we continued preparing the collection. Hidden symbols in Parker family paintings, subtle references in Coleman business ledgers. Our ancestors had created a secret language of love, preserved in plain sight. "Look at this," Hazel said one evening, holding up a cameo brooch. Inside were two tiny portraits, Elizabeth and Catherine, facing each other for eternity. The weight of their hopes, their dreams, their sacrifices settled around us like a mantle. We weren't just two women in love. We were the culmination of generations of longing, the answer to a century-old prayer. That night, in the garden where so many secret meetings had taken place, Hazel turned to me under the stars. "Do you think they can see us, Elizabeth and Catherine?" I pulled her close, breathing in the scent of roses that had perfumed so many dreams. "I think they've been watching all along, guiding us, protecting us, waiting for us to be ready." The dreams still came, but they were different now. Instead of showing us the past, they showed possibilities. The museum filled with visitors, our love story inspiring others, the cycle of secrecy finally broken. We were their legacy, their hope, their dream come true, and we would make sure their story, our story, would never be hidden again. Resigning from Coleman and Associates felt like shedding an old skin. I stood in my office one last time, boxing up years of achievements that suddenly seemed less important than the future waiting at the Parker mansion. "You're making a mistake," my former assistant said, watching me pack. "The board might still take you back if you reconsider." I picked up my last auction gavel, remembering countless sales and record-breaking bids. Sometimes the biggest mistakes are the chances we don't take. Starting my own venture was terrifying and exhilarating. Hazel and I worked late into the night, transforming the mansion's dining room into our temporary office. Her historical expertise combined with my business acumen created something unique, a consultancy specializing in historical preservation and museum development. "We'll help other families preserve their heritage," I explained to our first client, a widow determined to save her family's colonial estate. "Some things are worth more than their auction value." Word spread quickly through Bakersfield's old money circles. Families who'd watched their histories sold piece by piece came to us, seeking alternatives. Each success felt like a small victory against the commodity culture I'd once championed. The Parker Mansion's transformation progressed steadily. We converted the ballroom into a main exhibition hall, where Elizabeth and Catherine's story would be the centerpiece, though few would understand its true significance. "Look what I found," Hazel called one afternoon, holding up architectural plans. "The original conservatory design. We could restore it completely." The renovation became our shared obsession. Each room we restored seemed to breathe new life, as if the house itself was awakening from a long sleep. The dreams continued, but now they felt more like guidance than haunting. My family's reaction to my career change was predictably dramatic. "The Coleman name stands for something in this town," my mother reminded me over an uncomfortable lunch. "Yes," I agreed, thinking of Catherine's hidden letters. "It stands for recognizing true value." The local press caught wind of our story. The prominent auctioneer who'd abandoned her family business to preserve a failing estate. Their angles varied from romantic to scandalous, but we let them talk. The publicity only helped our cause. "Bakersfield's modern Medici," one headline declared, praising our efforts to protect the city's historical treasures. The article mentioned our close partnership with careful ambiguity, but we no longer cared about hiding. Late one night, as we reviewed renovation plans in the library, Hazel suddenly laughed. What would Elizabeth and Catherine think of all this? Their home becoming a museum, their love story on display, even if most people won't recognize it. I pulled her close, breathing in her familiar scent. "I think they'd be proud. We're not just preserving their story, we're living it, but better." The dreams shifted again, showing us glimpses of the future school groups touring the mansion, researchers studying the collection, couples walking the gardens where so many secret meetings once took place. Our relationship became Bakersfield's worst-kept secret, but the whispers held more curiosity than condemnation. Times had changed, even in our conservative corner of California. "Let them talk," Hazel said after a particularly gossipy charity event. "Every whisper helps break down the walls that kept Elizabeth and Catherine apart." The night before the museum's official announcement, we stood in the secret room where our story had truly begun. The space would remain private, a sanctuary for the most personal items of Elizabeth and Catherine's collection. "We did it," Hazel whispered, her hand finding mine in the darkness. "We changed their ending." I turned to her, seeing in her eyes the same love that had haunted our family's dreams for generations. "No, my love. We gave their story a new beginning." The mansion creaked around us, a sound that no longer seemed mournful but welcoming. Tomorrow we would face the press, the public, the future. But tonight, in this room where love had hidden for so long, we celebrated its emergence into the light. Our love story would never be a secret. And through us, Elizabeth and Catherine's love would finally be free too, even if the world would only know part of the truth. Some treasures, after all, are meant to be shared. Opening night at the Parker House Historical Museum felt like a dream come true. The mansion glowed with restored splendor, each room telling its own story of love, loss, and preservation. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the gathered crowd from the grand staircase, Hazel radiant beside me. "Welcome to a new chapter in Bakersfield's history." The city's elite filled the halls, their whispers of approval echoing through restored corridors. Even my former board members attended, their earlier opposition softened by the project's success and growing prestige. "Remarkable transformation," James's father admitted grudgingly, examining a display of Victorian artifacts. "You've created something unique here." The centerpiece exhibition, Love Letters Through Time, showcased carefully selected correspondence between Elizabeth and Catherine. While their true relationship remained their secret, their deep friendship and dedication to preservation became the museum's heart. "These women were ahead of their time," a university professor commented, studying their letters. "Their commitment to protecting cultural heritage was extraordinary." Hazel squeezed my hand discreetly. If he only knew the whole story. The evening's highlight was the unveiling of Elizabeth's restored portrait, now hanging prominently in the main hall. As I pulled away the covering, gasps filled the room. The conservation work had revealed previously hidden details, including a tiny cameo brooch containing Catherine's miniature. "The artist captured something special," an art critic mused. "The way she's looking at something just beyond the frame, there's such longing in her eyes." I caught Hazel's gaze across the room, understanding that longing all too well. But unlike our ancestors, we could act on our feelings. The gala dinner exceeded expectations. Local politicians praised our contribution to Bakersfield's cultural landscape. Heritage preservation societies presented awards. But the real triumph came during my closing speech. "None of this would be possible without my partner," I said, my voice steady as I looked at Hazel. "In business and in life. Some might call it fate that brought us together, but I call it destiny." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. Hazel's eyes shimmered with tears as she joined me at the podium. In that moment, generations of hidden love stepped into the light. Later that night, after the guests had gone, we walked the moonlit gardens where Elizabeth and Catherine had once shared secret meetings. The dreams had stopped. Perhaps our ancestors finally felt at peace. "Look," Hazel pointed to an upstairs window. For a moment, I swore I saw two figures in Victorian dress, watching us with approval. Then they faded like morning mist. "They're still here," I said softly. "In every restored room, every preserved letter, every piece we saved. And in us," Hazel added, pulling me close. "We're their legacy, their dream come true." The museum would go on to win national recognition, attracting visitors from around the world. Scholars studied our preservation methods, other historical properties sought our expertise, but more importantly, we created a space where love, in all its forms, could be celebrated openly. Elizabeth and Catherine's story became legend, even if most only knew part of it. Visitors often reported strange dreams after touring the mansion, dreams of love transcending time. We just smiled, knowing some mysteries were meant to remain private. That night, in the library where our journey began, Hazel turned to me with shining eyes. "Do you ever regret it? Leaving everything behind?" I pulled her into a kiss that held all the passion of our ancestors' hidden love, all the joy of our open hearts. I didn't leave anything behind. I found everything I was looking for. Above us, Elizabeth's portrait seemed to smile, her painted eyes holding secrets only we would ever truly understand. The Parker mansion had transformed from a place of hidden love to a celebration of preservation, of artifacts, of stories, of hearts finally free to love. Our dreams had become reality, better than anything Elizabeth and Catherine could have imagined. Their love story hadn't ended in tragedy after all, it had simply been waiting for us to write the final chapter. And what a beautiful ending it was!